in this episode of AI and Data Governance with Dr. Vega.
I am not traditionally trained in statistics or mathematics, but I found that apparently, just out of pure passion, I was someone who loves statistics.
We're currently in Chicago, and I'm here visiting with my friend Eugene Hamrick, Director of Enterprise Analytics and Innovation at Rappahannock Electric Cooperative, and its technology subsidiary, BrillIT.
So I started with a history degree, but it taught me how to research and it taught me how to think critically. And I think that's something that is missing a lot of times when we look at problems. Think about the different angles, think objectively, know how to formulate an argument from different perspectives so you can put yourself in that position and understand how to work through it. And I just found that, the passion is really for problem solving and helping people around us and caring for others. I've gone from gatekeeper to guide, and that's kind of the goal with data governance. It's not to be the department of no, that's not the goal here. We're not here to be gatekeepers, we're here to guide you in your path to using them ethically, morally, accurately, so you're empowered to do it in ways that are appropriate and then let you fly.
Welcome to the AI and Data Governance podcast with Dr. Vega, where we explore the cutting-edge AI and data innovations that are shaping the future of the electric utility industry. I am your host, Rolando Vega, and today we have an exceptionally special guest joining us. We're currently in Chicago, and I'm here visiting with my friend Eugene Hamrick, Director of Enterprise Analytics and Innovation at Rappahannock Electric Cooperative, and its technology subsidiary, BrillIT. Today, we'll be gaining insight into how Mr. Hamrick is promoting data-driven decision-making and ensuring that Rappahannock leverages its data to maximize operational benefits. Eugene, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Rolando.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Let me share some key interesting highlights about REC. That's how I'm going to be calling Rappahannock Electric Cooperative going forward, REC. To get the dialogue started, REC is a powerhouse in the electric utility sector, serving over 180,000 member owners across 22 counties in Virginia. Behind the scenes, REC is supported by a dedicated team of approximately 450 employees. As we look into some of the REC's key achievements that I observe as a third party looking, from the outside, they have implemented their AMI, and they have created an app, to interface with their customer called Smart Hub. It's a customer portal and mobile app which offers their members real-time access to their energy usage, account management features, and notifications. And something that caught my attention that many utilities are working on to provide their customers, and REC has already, got there is the point of providing, segmentation of appliances or the distribution of appliances. Let's say the meter collects all of the energy consumption in the home, and then the customer gets to have an approximate idea of what is the air conditioning, what are your other big appliances in the house separately. And I also noticed that REC's commitment to excellence has not gone unnoticed. The cooperative and its employees have earned a prestigious award called the Customer Satisfaction Award from the American Customer Satisfaction Index in both 2023 and 2024, which is a great indication of a very strong focus on this point of making sure their customers are satisfied. On the more analytics-oriented front, they have been making some remarkable strides in data governance and operational efficiency. They have been using novel ways to incentivize their workforce, gamifying data governance to make it more, let's say, like a game to motivate people to participate in the data exchange. And they have created a universal navigation dashboard for the enterprise where, if you can think of like a big table of contents that is graphical and fun to engage and identify areas of the business to kind of drill down to the specific area of information you want to get into, which is pretty exciting. So these are impressive achievements to highlight, and I could not be more excited to dive into some of the details here today with my friend Eugene. Eugene, how did you choose the utility industry as the area to focus and analytics as an area for you to focus in your career?
Yeah. So I, out of college, I actually took a temp job in the contact center at Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. I didn't go into it thinking like, well, I knew working in the electric utility would be a good place to start a career, but I started the contact center. I found it very fulfilling. I actually immediately wound up training on high bills because I just dove right into AMI data and MDM data, and I was just like, oh, it's easy to see your load patterns here. I could see, hey, did you just turn on a water heater, or like, do you have space heaters going, and be able to translate that into simple, understandable terms for the membership, and understand like, hey, this is how this affects your bill. If you're running a space heater 24 hours, you're going to probably spend about $60 a day. So just keep that in mind. So jumping into that, I am not traditionally trained in statistics or mathematics, but I found that apparently, like at the co-op, and just out of pure passion, I was someone who loves statistics. So that's really where my career started. And then I moved into member satisfaction and taking over the behavioral sciences function and member insights function. So working with demographic data, J.D. Power surveys, American Customer Satisfaction Index surveys, survey design and research. And then from there, it naturally extended into all things analytics, all things data and analytics, business intelligence dashboards. Power BI was really like the big catalyst moment for REC to dive into analytics. And I just found that, the passion is really for problem solving and helping people, and helping people around us and caring for others. And this just happens to be the tool that I was gifted with the ability and talent to do, and now the talent to help others seek that out. That allows me to help solve problems for the community around us.
I love it. So it seems like the starting point is not in itself analytics or the technologies. It's those become tools for you. The end goal being helping people.
Yes.
I love that. I think that makes it, it makes the life of someone that drives towards data governance much easier. I think because and we can have some more discussion on this topic, but it would seem to me that the aim of a perfect world in data governance is one where we have self-governance by all of the members of the team, where essentially no rules, have to create a lot of rules because everybody is kind of governing themselves.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's a phrase I like to use that I actually got from a Dan Brown novel, I think. But it's I've gone from gatekeeper to guide, and that's kind of the goal with data governance. It's not to be the department of no. It's not to tell individuals, hey, you can't do this, hey, you can't do that. It's we don't want to have empires of data. That's not the goal here. We're not here to be gatekeepers. We're here to guide you in your path to using them ethically, morally, accurately, with the right quality, with the right education, so you're empowered to do it in ways that are appropriate, and then let you fly.
Absolutely. That's very nice. Would you say that in that temp job, did you choose Rappahannock or Rappahannock chose you?
I guess both. I was right out of college. I remember the first place I applied was Geico, because it's right down the street, and because I was a history major, and they're like, well, good luck getting a job unless you're teaching, and they're like, go apply at assurance places, and they said I was overqualified. And I was like, what do I do? And so I applied. It was a temp opportunity, and I hustled and worked my butt off, and they taught me everything in terms of taking care of the member. And so I would say it was a little bit of both, and it's just been a great partnership every step of the way. We've had phenomenal leadership, which has empowered a lot of what we do on the analytics side, but I would say it's probably 50-50.
Outstanding. There you have it, Geico. You lost a great asset to your future. Now the utility industry has him.
Yeah.
What is your background in?
So, and education-wise, my background is I'm a history major. So I actually met my wife, who was also a history major, at the University of Mary Washington. So that's why I say, like, my background is not a traditional data and analytics background. I don't have degrees in computer science. I don't have degrees in data science. So I started with a history degree. I will say, honestly, out of all the education I have, it has probably been the most valuable education I've ever gotten because it teaches you how to research. I see myself as a researcher first and then apply these other tools, programming, data science, machine learning, mathematics to it after the fact. But it taught me how to research and it taught me how to think critically. And I think that's something that is missing a lot of times when we look at problems. Think critically about the problem. Think about the different angles, think objectively, know how to formulate an argument from different perspectives so you can put yourself in that position and understand how to work through it. So I'm a history major first. I got an MBA from the University of Phoenix that REC was gracious enough to help me get education. So embracing that, and it's paying tenfold because it allowed me to contribute more to the co-op. And then I have a couple data science certifications from Dell Technologies. So one day I was joking with our chief strategy, technology, and innovation officer. It's like, yeah, I would like to go back for a PhD one day. And he has a PhD. He's like, yeah, I think about getting more PhDs, but it's like, what do I need a PhD for? It's like, hey, there's always time, Peter. But no, that's my background. So the statistics side, I took some formal training in data science, but it was actually, funny enough, fantasy football that really got me heavily into doing just deep Excel work, and then I just translated that into my my business and work life as well.
So interesting. I think that you are maybe the more out there field that I have interviewed so far, history. And the rationale for how you connect that to solving problem is outstanding. I love it. I believe it because I think that you have shaped skills on leadership and in your abilities to communicate that have been instrumental assets for you to be effective in your job. And then later on, you care about people, number one. You know how to investigate problems, number two, how to formulate the situation or frame the problem. You research, about not only the problem, but potential solutions. And then you said, well, I need to get some additional skills in data. And then you went and get those additional skills. But it's not like you had to start from the beginning with all of the technical skills. That is a great encouraging point for the people in our audience who might be wondering, what should I go study? And in your scenario, you went to study what you were passionate to study, and then and there was something in you that propelled you to acquire the additional skills. But it's quite an interesting journey that you have had. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Would you say were there? Well, and then the next question is maybe a combo, because when I'm going to ask you about milestones, critical points in your journey. And I say a combo because maybe you can help me see who are some of the role models that have been pivotal in that journey. And this is a very important question for me because some folks in the audience may be on the more, let's say, mentor role, more senior, more experienced, and some may be younger coming into the industry, maybe looking for their next mentor. And this is one that is very close to my heart because we need more of both, of the mentors and the people who are willing to learn along the way. And we all need people. We it's always good to have another person that can challenge you and help you progress in your career. But I want to use this as an opportunity for you to help us crystallize what are some of the examples of what people has done in your journey that have been transformational for you, because through those experiences, then it creates aha moments for both the mentor and the mentee, like, oh, those are the sort of moments I want to aim at, to have with my mentor, or for the mentor to have with the mentee.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So in terms of milestone, and there's certainly just massive figures that I can think of that have just inspired me and contributed to how I see my perspective around things along the way. So some of the milestones, I left the contact center about 3 years in and started working in member insights as a research analyst. And then it turned into data analyst and solution architect, and then the director role. Along the way, one of the milestones I'll never forget is going to the NRECA, National Rural Electric Cooperative Association, and I was part of the RMAG, Analytics Reliability Resiliency Member Advisory Group. And it was just a conversation with another individual, and he was saying, well, we have this really great thing in Power BI that we're using to visualize all of our data and put things in there. And that really started me on a journey of using Power BI and doing the free version and just like, let's see what we can do with this. It's not a PowerPoint, it's something else. And this thing was like 2016, 2017. And I distinctly remember the thing that started really in earnest our business analytics journey at REC. And it was with a managing director who he saw it and he immediately embraced it. Our John Crawford, our managing director of operational services, we were able to take latitude and longitude points for substations and show SAIDI numbers by substation on a map. And like at that time, like in 2016, 2017, it was like, whoa, how'd you just do that? Put that on a map. And that was it. Like from there, we just took off. We're like, let's go full throttle and see what else we can build and how we can visualize it to make impactful decisions. So like I always go back to that point. It's like that's where the analytics journey really started. There's other things along the way, and that embrace from the business of like having someone who's interested in data was massive. But looking at it going further along the way, a couple different milestones I distinctly remember. Going to Utility Analytics Institute, and there was a particular individual, I think his name was Matthew Croucher. And I think he worked at CPS, I think at one point,
yes.
and Entergy, and you maybe have run into him a couple times.
Yeah, well. Yes.
So, and now he's at Google, I think he's still at Google, but some of the things he shared on data strategy and data governance, and just like data governance, transformative technologies and risk mitigation and all of those different functions, that was extremely influential to me, like very early in my analytics career. And that's what have built our strategic technology and analytics roadmap on. So we have something that we've developed and now we help other cooperatives with, which is, we call it Analytics Center of Excellence, or ACE Blueprint. It's literally how do you create a foundational repeatable program for analytics, especially for co-ops where they have maybe a data analyst if they're lucky. They're all starting to hire a single data analyst and say, hey, you're responsible for all this, go figure it out. That's extremely unrealistic, and so we need to find ways to help support our community and cooperation among cooperatives and give those utilities the tools they need to be successful with using data. And so thoughts I got in those sessions that he trained us on were extremely influential to what I developed on my own internally at REC and like the culture we built around it. And a couple other quick milestones. So Carol Bogatz over at 1898 & Co. and Burns McDonnell, she was really influential because I was Department of One until the end of 2021. So I was just an initiative. I wasn't even a department. So we have an approach of swell and then shrink. When you need a big analytics team and you need to consult and work together, you find partners, build relationships. Don't make it transactional. It's a relationship. And Carol was extremely influential because I saw a presentation where she worked with our G&T at the time. And I was like, oh my gosh, like you work with co-ops. Like this is amazing because like everything's IOU focused. So she was extremely influential and inspirational. And then I can't move on without talking about Peter Mahuro, our Chief Strategy and Technology and Innovation Officer, and John Hugh, our CEO. They are probably some of the most progressive CEOs in this industry, and they, from an industry perspective, they're constantly looking at utilities are changing, and we need to be at the forefront of that, or something will happen that will negatively affect our membership. We need to constantly be paying attention to that. And the wonderful thing that I learned from those individuals was my transition from technical expert to leading the strategy component of it, and really focused on, what we do is great, but if you can't connect and resonate with the employees and find ways to communicate that, it's all for naught, because they won't adopt what you're doing. So those two were extremely influential in knowing how to connect and learning how to connect better with the employees.
I want to maybe double click on that last component. I think, that Rappahannock is doing something not only very forward leaning, but very unique. And, it's our passion and interest in analytics automations to really help the backbone of this country, no matter your size. And one of the key motivations for this podcast is actually to bring the knowledge of the more fortunate, blessed with resources to invest in R&D, and kind of take all of those lessons learned to, let's say, utilities that are, smaller, without them having to spend all of that investment into it. And I'm a big proponent of not leaving people behind, and I'm very concerned with how quickly things are going in especially now with artificial intelligence and data. And so because of that, I want you maybe to take a moment and explain, how was BrillIT conceived? Because it's quite a different approach to providing support for a utility, and it was all born out of an electric co-op.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So BrillIT is the wholly owned subsidiary of Rappahannock Electric Cooperative for IT, cyber, and analytic services. Essentially, the main driver of it, and then the secondary, but it's a 1A, 1B situation. The main driver was we had historically contracted out our IT staff, going back like 30 years at Rappahannock Electric Cooperative. And it was one of those things where we were overpaying the contractor significantly. The employees were not being taken care of. Positions were not being backfilled. They weren't being paid up to the market standards. And we said we need to take care of our employees, because these are people who've been working basically at REC for decades. We need to take care of our employees, and we need to be fiscally responsible for our membership. And what we identified is we could bring them in-house and staff properly and save like millions of dollars a year. So it just made all the sense in the world. The challenge was, because we're a cooperative, we have RUS guidelines from the USDA. So there's a headcount restriction per meter for us to get loans. That's our primary lender, is the USDA. So it's a unique challenge in the co-op space because, if you have a headcount restriction on talent, if you have a choice between a data analyst and a lineman, you're always going to hire the lineman. Linemen, are the backbone of what we do. We keep the lights on. It's our core. So BrillIT gave us an opportunity to expand the team and have a opportunity to work around that headcount. And with it, again, our Chief Strategy, Technology, and Innovation Officer, Peter, was like, in the cybersecurity space and analytics space, in the cooperative realm, you guys are doing extremely unique things. So that's where I got the opportunity to become a director, build my own team. It was rapid growth. I went from myself to 10 people in 2 years, which was insane in the best way. And from there, that's where he said, like, let's take what we've built here and follow the cooperative principles as cooperatives helping cooperatives. And we've expanded it even to helping other IOUs and opportunities there. If it presents itself, we don't want to limit ourselves to just helping one utility. But that has really been something that we've embraced. So we've started going around and implementing some of our platform as a service, software as a service, cultural, like the ACE Blueprint piece, at other cooperatives. So it's essentially saying, can we learn from other people and take it back to REC and then take that back out? So it's just a full embrace of, we've got something special here and let's share it.
That's amazing. And I'm, we're only as a nation as strong as the weakest link. And so again, there is a lot more need than there is people to support that need right now. And the best situation is one where we are all helping each other kind of promote the resiliency of the national security, and I'm really excited for you guys for what you're doing. So good for you.
Yeah.
We're diving now into the two sides of a coin. We have a lot of initiatives that I'm sure you have led and your team have been working on over the past few years. And one side of the coin is the great things, and then the other side of the coin, I will call it the greater things. With regards to the great things, you had planned to do X, Y, and Z, and you got what you expected, or maybe you were even surprised that you got more and better than what you expect. Those are the love stories. Is the good situation,
right?
And I think many people will resonate and maybe will be inspired with those good successes that you guys have had. On the other hand, I have noticed that a lot of people say or feel like, they have those successes because it's them, their situation, They were able to get the investment. Oh, too nice of Eugene. He has Peter on his side, and Peter is a big proponent of what Eugene wants to do. Too many things are going right for Eugene at the moment, and I may not be able to replicate the successes.
Right.
But one area where everybody will resonate is the struggles. The lessons that you have learned is directly transferable to other areas, and people will pay attention to the greater things. I want to hear both though, because you have some inspiring stories on the great things, and let's just start with those.
Yeah, no. So starting with the inspiring stories, I think one of the things that I would like to speak up on data governance and also just our overall approach and platform is really we built a team from 1 to 10 in 2 years, and I like to refer to good to great from Jim Collins all the time. Right people on the right seat on the bus to get where you're trying to go.
Yep.
And so how do we know we had the right people on the bus? Well, we said, hey, if we truly want to help out every cooperative, we need to make this thing universally applicable. We need to make this something that can be put in place at any other organization. Otherwise, it's just a custom fit design. So we took 200 plus BI reports at the time, and our entire analytics architecture, which to be frank was very decentralized. It was over 3 different platforms. It was very clunky. Where do I go for here? Where do I go for that? And we said, we need to stop everything we're doing and rebuild this. So in 7 months, my entire team rebuilt all of our dashboards, all of our architecture into Snowflake environment. We rebuilt the whole thing. And then this year we reintroduced it to our employees across the board. And so one of the major successes I would say we've had is just the pure tenacity and teamwork that our department had to say, hey, we're going to redo everything we've spent the last 7 years on, and then we're going to take it even further than I took it. And I believe in you guys, and they did. I would say some of the visual designs, some of the architectural designs, the automation and the data governance, it's just truly incredible on that end. And what really drove it home was recognizing that, and this may tie into the next part, which is, what are some of the things that didn't work out? We do have great executive sponsorship, executive leadership, and that's helped out so much. But those team members, along the way, we're we have these champions of data, vegetation management. We have someone who's just the absolute expert in that and wants to just absorb any piece of data we have, period. And then we have other departments. I like to say departments are not silos. They're castles with a moat and a drawbridge and sometimes an alligator and sometimes a dragon flying overhead. So it's how do you break through those barriers when they're just I want nothing to do with you. I'm either retired and waiting, or we do it this way because it's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I'm really proud of that we did was the data governance model of generating some competitive gamifying and peer pressure amongst our employees, where we put the user views right on the navigation dashboards. We made it one centralized experience for everybody. We put definitions on the dashboard, so you weren't just what is an HRZ? I don't know what that is. Define that. So we have short descriptions on them. We have education tools on the front page. We have, if you need help, we've got a help icon where it directly power automates right to our entire team, so we can help them almost like a service desk ticket. But we put the user logs on the front page, and it has worked in terms of generating peer pressure, because now it's we're not calling out individuals, but you could see which departments are consuming data and which departments are leveraging data. Mm-hmm. And I distinctly remember it, and I was this was the aha moment, or the man, we really did something special here. I was at a conference down in San Antonio in March, and our director of operations came over to me and he said, hey, love all the work you guys have been doing on the new major outage dashboard and everything. And it's do we still have the high score? And I was what are you talking about? And he's on the dashboard, do we still have the highest number? And I pulled it up there because we were actually at a booth demoing it. And I was yeah, you guys are still winning. Keep up the great work. Keep them going. And I was all right, so we're doing something right here. Yeah. And that was a really big aha moment. Okay, this is working. There's a little bit of friendly gamification. I mean, we see it JD Power is a perfect example. They give you, if you subscribe to that, everyone's data.
Yeah.
So exactly, if you want to beat another competitor in your field, you have all the answers to the test right there. So, and we know that at the executive level, particularly, competition is something that they're constantly looking at. So we're why don't we just make it a competition?
Yeah.
And it's gone leaps and bounds in adoption. So those are some of the major things recently that I'm proud of what that team has done, how we've rebuilt everything, and then also just our unique approaches to getting people excited about data governance, which I know I had a presentation yesterday. It's like, who had make data governance fun on their bingo card for 2024?
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't, but it's actually been fun to do it.
Well, and what that does to the culture of the organization is unbelievable, because not only people get excited about data and how to consume it, but they get more aware of who are all of the players, within your own company. Sometimes, people don't even know who else is a user, of a particular digital asset or dashboard. And now you create, number one, the awareness. It opens up the communication a lot more, because people, may be using it, but they may not be using it. Well, they are likely not using it in the same way to make the same decision. So it's always interesting how many sparks of innovation, will come about because of the opening of this game. It will spur more conversations that would not have happened otherwise. So innovation, I think, will go through the roof when that begins. Your data governance is now incentivized. People are more excited to talk on the topic of data governance. And we did something similar when I was heading the data and analytics department at CPS Energy, and we would also use it to recognize people and created an opportunity to, once we had the brown bag seminar or once a month event where we just gave a chance to the winner who was kind of ahead, in the whomever created the dashboard that had the most hits, in the month. And we would say, go ahead, share with the whole community. We had 120 developers or creators of Tableau dashboards, which is an unbelievable number.
Oh my gosh.
Business analysts and engineers from across the whole company. And we gave a chance to whomever created the most effective dashboard to share, why did I do it? What was why do they think that is driving the organization forward to such a massive adoption? And every month we would kind of pick whomever had the most productive dashboard. So I have seen firsthand how exciting this can make the data conversation, and that's phenomenal. So I didn't think of it from the perspective of not just a solution. A dashboard is a solution to answer certain questions, but to frame your data governance program around it. And so that's an area that you guys are pushing forward, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I love that spotlight on whoever has the most views. I may actually start doing that at the operational management meetings and just invite one of my team members to do that. It's awesome.
Excellent. Now let's get into the greater things. The only limitations or rules for this game of the greater things is, no cybersecurity hacks can be shared, of course. The bulk electric system must remain, intact from this conversation. However, please be as vulnerable as you can be, so that others can learn through those experiences.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've got a couple of different examples that come to mind. Thinking of challenges, the first thing I'll say is failure is the first step in success. And one of the major lessons learned that I'll share with anybody is I failed thousands of times before I succeeded. And everybody on our team embraces that as well. I think we fully embraced the concepts from Amazon on two-way doors, in that, if it's a one-way door, you go through it once, you can't go back. And so recognize when you're in a one-way door situation. If it's a two-way door, if you mess up, you can go back. It's okay. So being able to embrace that and going into things with, I'm not going to say fearless, but like with less fear is something that helps be okay with stumbling along the way a little bit. But there's some particular things I mentioned. Our champions, we have certainly tons of detractors. There's been moments where, we've actually built a fully functioning custom works product for another co-op as part of BrillIT. And our internal organization at REC did not want to embrace it. Still don't want to embrace it. Maybe next year we revisit it. We're also in a massive transformation time where data centers are popping up left and right, but Rappahannock's kind of at the epicenter of that. In that we've got some of these major AI data centers coming into play that our load growth in 2025, 2026, I think is set to be tenfold now from where we're currently at. We're going to be 10 times more of our existing load.
Wow.
And more load than I think some of the largest G&Ts in the nation, which is mind-blowing. Like I don't know how to comprehend it. There's going to come several, I hope, data and analytic requests on how to optimize those interconnections and how to optimize load and how to work for significant battery energy storage or load curtailment programs, incentivizing those programs, measuring those programs, and DERMS being a part of that. So I'm excited for that. But one of the things, it was a cash flow obligations receivable dashboard, and the thought was, well, people don't give us their invoices in time anyway, so all this data, you could build this dashboard, but all this data is going to be garbage. And it immediately clicked for me, and we started progressing on it, which was, okay, well, if I give you a dashboard that's, has bad data quality, but tells you where the bad data quality is, so it's garbage in, garbage out, but I just told you where the trash is, and now you can take it out. So it's actually a data governance tool first, and then a useful tool after, because now you can talk to those people and be like, all right, this particular group gives us their invoices way too late all the time, but now we know.
Yeah.
Because right now they're flying blind. They just say, well, we get the invoices in AP and then we process them, but they're not paying attention to the patterns or necessarily thinking in that way. So that's an example of not every, your organizations are not monoliths. They're not all moving at the same pace, and you have to recognize that and work with them differently. Another example of some of for years, decades, this has been a problem for Rappahannock Electric Cooperatives. Can we accurately measure line loss? We don't have meters at certain checkpoints to accurately measure line loss in a way where you can say circuit down or substation down from the delivery point to the meter. So you have to go system level, and you have to do some very specific assumptions on power factor and details like that. And I'm getting a little bit into a technical deep dive, but with line loss, it was always a situation where it became very tenuous because people would look at the numbers and finance and engineering in the same room and be like, well, those aren't right. You either need to follow the Form 7s and the regulatory reporting, or in the engineering is like, well, this isn't useful for us, and different perspectives. And we've gone through major, hundreds of thousands of dollar projects and things like that to get this right. And so that was a huge challenge, a huge, in some ways, failure along the way of like, well, we've invested all this time and we still can't accurately figure out line loss. How is this possible? And it wasn't until this year where it was a meeting where wasn't even the topic of the meeting, but we showed a dashboard showing line loss and percentages of losses from the purchase side, from our wholesale, to the sales side on the metering revenue side. And I just stopped the meeting halfway through and I said, hey, I don't have the authority on the data analytics side to make this decision, but if I could get some leadership here, can we form a tiger team, which is a fast-moving, active team, and just come together and collaborate together and solve this problem? Because, and I just said it very bluntly, I was like, I'm so tired of going back to the same issue over and over again. I've been assigned to supporting that effort for the last 5 years, and I'm like, since like 2019, it's like, I'm ready to get this right. Let's get it right. Yeah. They said, yes, we support that. So I assigned a principal data engineer to lead the Tiger team. We pulled in the AMI and the MDM and the IT resources together. And it's still not perfect. I will not say it's 100% success, but we've gotten that more accurate, or as accurate as it could possibly be with the systems we have in place. I can't wait for 15-minute meter reads because that'll change everything. But for the time being, like, that is something that we've all agreed now is accurate and we're comfortable using. So just to show, we have the same problems everybody else does. Culturally, getting people on board and getting people to agree, getting people comfortable with different things, making sure your data is accurate. Those are problems to work through, and they're not perfect, but it's just perseverance and just making sure that people are committed to getting it right.
That is outstanding, and I will at least extract a couple of observations from what you say that I think are very replicable and useful. On one end, I think that you have found a way to use information to break with some of the chains that have kept us, tied to whatever past, way of operations. One example, We are, many people will say, oh, utilities are very slow, in how they operate, we're never fast, and that creates, an element of cynicism. And cynicism actually destroys cultures, because, you say, and you bring, let's say you have a new employee joining the company, a new team member, and they come with some great ideas. And the first way that you respond is with this, like it's ever going to happen, right? I mean, yes. and I understand, there is no perfect company. We all have our issues. It doesn't matter if it is utility or not a utility. There are always issues, and there is plenty and abundant reasons to be cynical about things, especially when those things don't get corrected, right? And there are real situations that don't get corrected. It's understandably, that people get cynical. However, there is actually a lot of times, the situation where people are cynical, and it's either unfounded or they could actually do something about it, and they could help change that story, and the message. And as leaders, we have plenty of those opportunities to change the narrative of what we hear our people complain about. And so from what you're saying is important and good for me to hear, because you're using data in ways that can help us stop with that cynicism. And you could use it as a tool, to share, if we're slow, in what elements are we slow? Is it in the way that we're responding to the customers in the business? Okay, what are the logs telling us? When do we define the starting point when you make a request? Mm-hmm. And when did you first hear from us? And when did we resolve the issue? And you now have 3 timestamps, right? And let's actually use the timestamps to evaluate whether what you're saying is true. And then you repeat that through all of the requests that have been coming your way. And then you demonstrate whether it is true, in fact, that you're not listening to the organization or you're way too slow. But if, in fact, you can use that data to say that you have been responsive to them, then you actually can come back to the person that has been cynical and say, I want to understand what's behind your argument or behind your cynicism that we are not responsive to you, because this is what I am seeing. And, it's not to just say here, we're doing great, but it's a tool to enable greater conversations.
Yeah, self-evaluation.
Yes.
But to do it in a way that's constructive and not just saying, hey, you did really bad.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm sure that there is a lot of situations just like that where, and that's my other lesson from this is that there are conflicts in every organization. And so I am sure that behind those conflicts, there is some information that can be used to help us either validate whether the conflict is well-founded, or, if it is well-founded, it can actually bring to light what the issue is, right? It could be like, yes, let's say in the example I provided, okay, so you're fast according to the data, but she says that you're slow, or the person says that you're slow. So what is the experience that she's having that the data is not capturing? Mm-hmm. Right? It could be that we're missing something in the very nature of the data that we're collecting,
right,
which is important to them.
Well, it almost reminds me of a conversation we had the other day at the conference. It was we're talking about tasks and measuring productivity of different team members for remote versus hybrid and otherwise. And it's like, well, how do you measure something that's subjective? Like, how do you measure quality of the tasks that are assigned versus quantity? Because there could be, I have certain team members that I know just like churn out dashboards all the time, and I have some that maybe only work on 3 while one works on 10, but the quality of what they're doing and the technical knowledge that requires, or the domain knowledge that requires to be thorough enough, I don't get mad at the one who does 3 and one who does 10, because they're working on different, you have to understand the subject matter that they're dealing with, and it's very subjective to measure that. So, but yes, by having logs and to understand those things, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, so we're diving now into the last stretch of the questions that I have here. In regards to the future of Rappahannock Electric, what's your vision for the future? Let's say 5 years and 10 years.
So for Rappahannock Electric and for BrillIT, our vision right now, I feel extremely proud of the team we have and the start we're doing on the BrillIT side, and essentially like reinventing taking our foundation and reinventing it. So the next 5 years, we now have this centralized environment. We have a very strong new approach to data governance. The next 5 years, I believe, is going to be something where our goals are to continue to build the branches that we've already started to build and the inroads we've built with business strategy, and being seen as part of the business to continue to build that adoption. On the other end of the spectrum, on the IT side, I think we're going to continue to move to standardize all reporting from all applications into one central form. It doesn't always have to be a Power BI or business intelligence dashboard. That's usually been our approach because, especially in the cooperative space, it's crawl and walk. That's digestible. Everybody still loves their Excel reports, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we want to give them a tool that gets them from crawling to walking. So that's initially where we're headed. But thinking ahead 5 years out and then 10 years out, build on the centralized, consolidated approach. I like to say that we're a centralized but democratized approach. So we have a central department. We have embedded hub and spoke where we work with different team members from the business side and the IT side. But we keep it centralized. We keep it the same consistent experience, but we democratize the data. We make it accessible. So moving forward, of course, generative AI, but also traditional machine learning and traditional AI approaches are something that are heavily moving towards. We want to get to predictive and prescriptive, especially from a reliability standpoint, one of our absolute biggest concerns, which is tree calls outages regionally in Virginia. That's one of those pine trees that are 100 feet tall that just snap in half, that aren't even in a right of way. Can we predict and detect them before they happen, and trim them before they happen, and quantify that on a financial level so we can say, like, yes, this investment is worth the time and effort. So taking things in a more predictive approach like that, prescribing a right-of-way schedule. Most utilities have a standard 5-year schedule. Maybe you don't need 5 years. Maybe you don't need to trim entire circuits. If you can isolate specific, I have 5 miles, maybe I only need to clear 500 feet. Or this circuit I need to clear every 2 years because the vegetation just grows incredibly fast. And this one, I don't have to touch this, but every maybe 7 years, roll it back, 7-8 years. Taking different strategic and innovative approaches like that are things that we're looking at doing, and leveraging the tools that are in our tool belt. And moving forward, there's a couple other areas I hit on reliability. I'll talk about the engineering and member-facing side. Preparing for electric vehicles is huge. And moving forward with the tools in that area. We have something we've developed in terms of forecasting and projecting EV data. And just EV, not just from a what's it going to do to transformer capacity if this member adds a level 2 charger or a level 3 charger, but what happens to our overall demand profile and load profile when we have high economic growth or low economic growth and high EV growth. So pulling those tools into play, and building the ability to plan for the future in that sense. And then one I'm really excited about is just all the innovation that's going on with metering technology. Mm-hmm. I think demand response is going to completely change in the future, and in the most positive way. Because these newer meters are 15-minute read meters or lower, but they have the ability to have an open marketplace for applications for member-facing and for the utility side. The benefit of that is some of the things they can do to throttle meters to help curve demand during peaks, and that's what really drives our costs is always going to be peak demand across the grid. Just the opportunity to build something that's member-facing, build something that's also utility-facing to help members curtail their load, to help them have affordable bills, but easily have affordable bills, and the Wi-Fi that's built into those meters, so they have bring your own device. An easy demand response, not equipment-based demand response where they have to sign up for something and we have to install something and maintain it. Make it seamless, something they don't have to, go out of their way for. So I think the experience for our membership, this is going to help us reduce costs for members, for customers of utilities. It's going to help us improve their experience. I'm so excited for the opportunity to have those kind of tools and applications to solve problems for employees and members. So I think diving headfirst into the AI approach is really where we want to go.
Outstanding. I want to give you a chance to maybe help me clarify. When you say throttle meters, that's the first time I hear that concept, and maybe they say something new that I'm not yet aware.
Yeah, so that's the first time I heard it yesterday too, and there's probably other words that maybe make more sense. But I was talking to Itron, and Landis and Gear said the same thing as well. Essentially, what they're saying is, rather than everyone who has an EV, all of a sudden they have to go from a 200 amp service to a 400 amp service, and now they have to have a whole nother panel box for their wall mount level 2 charger. What they're saying is we can actually, through the Wi-Fi technology they can actually help control your level 2 charger or your thermostat to help reduce or throttle the load. So that way, instead of having that 7 kW peak all at once, it can be maybe a consistent 3 kW throughout. So you don't need to upgrade your meters. You can optimize the existing infrastructure. So that's really where they're going with that. And it's, in some cases that opens up I have so many questions about it. It's how are you going to do that? Can you do it safely? How's this going to work out? Interesting. But conceptually, it's really cool. And also from an outage detection, again, improving the lives of our membership and our customers, the edge, grid edge technology of being able to say from a transformer, there's 5 meters on a transformer, and tracing that back. So line tracing during an outage from the meter itself. That's incredible. That could reduce outage time. I wouldn't even be able to put a percentage on it, but I could just anticipate the ability to improve outage response immediately from all the different devices, IoT, talking together.
Yeah. I was speaking with Josh from Encore, Josh Power, and he was here yesterday in our podcast also, and he was reminding me that it has been at least more than 5 years, that they have already reconciled their AMI and their OMS systems. Every outage that is identified on OMS, you have exactly the population of AMI meters, not just, and there is an inference engine that is the roll up logic that OMS uses. Like if these customers are calling, we assume
parent
that all
child,
these customers, child. Yeah. So for him to come and say, we have had these for years, where we have reconciled 100% of our meters, coming into the OMS. I think it was an interesting point that, that's where many of us want to go to, where is no longer assumptions made in OMS, the outage management system, but it's actually validated and measured, outage incidents that the meters are detecting, and then of course associate that through the network, the equipment that is upstream in a logical way. Phenomenal. Now, the last person, posed the following question for the next speaker. You are the next speaker, and the question is, what is your dream for the utility industry, overall, across all sizes of utilities and geographies in the country?
So I love that question. I'm going to have so much fun with this. So I'll start with the smaller utilities, and then I'll branch out to broader, and then I'll try to tie it all together. So my hope is that for cooperatives and municipalities, or smaller utilities, right? One of our goals with BrillIT and what we're doing there is, we've created a platform as a service to empower folks that just simply don't have the IT resources to do some of the analytics they want to do, and have the connection to the data. I mean, in most places, 9 out of 10 cooperatives just don't have access to their MDM data. So could you imagine trying to do anything with your metering data when you can't even access it? That is a huge roadblock. My goal for BrillIT is to say, hey, these people with one data analyst, let's find a way to empower them, and for these smaller utilities, embrace data, but find a way to make it economically approachable for them from a resource standpoint, but also financially. We need to create tools that are approachable, and that can be used. So that's really one of the things I'd love to see in the industry from a small perspective for the little guy, if you will. It's like, let's get them started because they're struggling. They simply do not have the resources to take on some of these things. They're like, this is great, but there's no way I could do it. I've got one person in my IT department. Or maybe their IT department for the entire organization is 3 people. Yeah. So that's something I'd really love to see, is just making these tools accessible. And that's an overall approach that I'd love to see more of is culturally just, I like to say access, if you have the right personnel to data, is easy. Doing machine learning models, data science, if you have the right talent and personnel, is also easy. If you understand the context, you take information into insights. The hardest part, and this will tie into the larger utilities, is action taken. Action taken is entirely about people and culture. And if you do not have the right people and culture in place, nothing we do will be successful, because the business drives the decisions, and it's better decisions resulting in better outcomes. So when I look at larger utilities, investment-owned utilities, generation and transmission, not just in our country but globally, I think about with AI and the proliferation of generative AI and leveraging those tools, we can free up those super subject matter experts to do more with their time. We can use AI to do more of the mundane or simpler tasks and free up those experts to really leverage what they know and take that to the next level. From a larger utility standpoint, what I would love to see us incorporate AI and some of our analytic architecture into is fully leveraging data interoperability. And as simply put, data that talks with one another. The example that I've used, and it sounds like the simplest thing to do, but it's also, to be accurate with it, it's probably one of the most complicated things to do, is, can you tell me the cost of rolling a truck accurately? And think about all the different offices and branches some of the large utilities have. Rappahannock Electric has 3 original offices, and I can tell you they code all their time completely different. Can you tell me the cost of rolling a truck? For me to do that, I need to take core applications that do not typically work together: finance and accounting, work management, outage, OMS systems, right? And I need to get those to somehow merge together and effectively work together. I would love to see us as an industry use AI to have the best data interoperability to where all of our data works together effectively. And that way we can answer some of the very difficult, bigger questions, because all of these things are interdependent. And for us to do that, we need to have the right culture behind it at utilities, which historically have been very slow moving and not willing to transition and change. I think the industry has finally hit that point where things are changing at an extremely rapid pace, and we need to finally get in gear. And I'm starting to see that across the industry, and it's been really exciting to see that.
Yeah.
So that's really something I would love to see us to do, is have data interoperability and just cooperation amongst each other, because we are critical infrastructure. We are something that we have to keep the lights on. And for us to do that, we need to pay attention to the changes going on.
That's pretty nice. I like the way that you describe interoperability, and if I can maybe dive a little bit deeper on that. Historically, I observed that when we talk about interoperability, we're talking about devices that are operating in different protocols. You have an electric vehicle that, let's say, will connect. The electrical interface has a particular standard, and then the information interface will follow also a different standard, whether it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. But even the data packets have a particular data model or structure in it that is defined for that exchange. And then you have this other appliance that has a different protocol. And so interoperability has been in the past about, how do we remove the strict nature of these protocols, and we have something that is a little bit more uniform, that can, communicate more across devices. And what I find interesting about your proposition for the future, in your view of the future here, is one where data interoperability takes a slightly different form. I think it's no longer just a conversation of the protocols that are used to exchange information, because you could have a uniform, set of standards, and now they're all kind of speaking the same standard, but it's not a protocol discussion. It's actually across all of the different applications, and it's using AI to help us find these context and bring it together in a, let's say, in a more organic way than the traditional way, which is this column here is associated to this element in my data model in a very strict way from a standard perspective, let's say. And I think that can, if we get there, if I'm understanding your dream, I think it would be a revolution, really, because again, it moves us away from putting man hours behind a problem. To just make the traditional data integration job. I mean, we have to do data engineering, we have to combine systems, and that takes time. And yes, once you do it, it's beautiful and you can analyze, but let's say we have a new system now. Mm-hmm. Okay, are you gonna bring this project back to life again to reinitiate a whole data integration job for the next application? Well, maybe, and that's the way that we do it today. Mm-hmm. But if I'm understanding that future state, you could have a new system and you don't have to essentially start a new project. You may have to retrain your model, but it's not like a very brittle connection of point to point in your data integration task.
Yes, exactly. And to take it a step further, think of it in terms of I like to think of GIS as the backbone of the data side and applications of an electric utility. Mm-hmm. So if you are able to, from singular points or mapped locations, pull in all of the things that traditionally would not always fit into GIS. I know the transformer location number, the device ID, all of the age asset age inspection, those things are typically in there. But take it a step further. Can you pull in demographic data, member satisfaction data,
right?
Your financial data on there, so billing as well. Take every single piece of information from a single point of location and map that out. So meters would be separate, and then your actual infrastructure devices. So it can't all be like one perfect giant map. But take all those things, and can you assign an algorithm based on the features within there to determine, hey, what are areas in the next year we need to be hyper concerned about? What about the next 3 to 5 years? What about the next 10 years? So it helps us determine, you take your capacity, outage history, member satisfaction, member experience, all those different factors, and you can get a comprehensive view of your actual utility. And that's something that currently, we've started doing a lot of work in, but if we could get it really, truly consolidated to work as one unit, it unlocks so much more insight and opportunity for us to solve these problems.
And I know that there are applications that attempt to do that even today. But again, it takes a lot of time to integrate the information. And,
yes.
And I think that where this, at least for me, where this is really special, is in how is the new paradigm component. Is the visualization. Yes, you need the tools to visualize all of this information, but it's as if saying, and this is going to be an approximation. Not I need to find more articulate way of describing what you're saying, but it's as if saying we typically store data in tables. We're going from spreadsheets that everybody loves, downloading tables from a database to a spreadsheet. Forget about spreadsheets for a moment, but the databases are storing all of this tabular information that, in order to make sense of all of it, you need a semantic model that is the data model that brings the meaning. It defines the meaning for the data that you have in the tables, and in a way, at least how I'm thinking of the future is one where, forget even about that. We need to have the wrong term is, we have the Internet of Things, which is a whole different industry, and we have devices in the end. But it's just having all of those devices in a network graph of sorts, where
a lineage graph or a data mesh.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it is, and I know there are concepts like this in the industry. It has been there for more than 5 years.
But to execute it successfully in a way that actually incorporates all these things, and it's not a one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter thing, because every application, every vendor, they don't all perfectly align. But yes, that's it.
Okay, cool. So now you have a chance to state what is the next question I should ask my next speaker.
Okay. So I have two questions in mind.
Okay.
And so dealer's choice on which one you want to ask. So the first question I have, and this was a conversation we're having with a couple industry leaders yesterday at the UA Week conference, is should analytics continue to reside in IT, or should it reside in the business function? So the OT-IT question. I will tell you, there was no perfect answer in the conversation that we had, but the idea or the concept is, is analytics as a department or as a function going to be more successful as a business strategy function that has IT capabilities to fulfill the organization's mission, or should it remain as more of a supporting function like an IT service desk type of function where it stays as part of the IT and the overall enterprise architecture and supports the business from that side? So would love to see your next podcast, how they approach that problem, how they think through that problem.
Definitely.
And then another question I would have for the next podcaster is looking at AI and data governance, right? So we've made so much stride in data and analytics and coming up with data governance policies and data hygiene, ethics, literacy, how to appropriately use data. And AI is this new wrinkle to that, particularly generative AI, because it's now more accessible than ever. So when we look at that, how do you all see AI being a part of that from a data governance perspective? Is it its own separate thing that we need our own separate data governance policies, or do you see it as an extension of folding into the existing data and analytics effort on data governance? So how do you see AI and data and analytics working together, or maybe being separate individual components in the future from a data governance perspective?
Okay. Can I maybe have your perspective on the first question? And then on the second question, I'd like to understand what could be the arguments to have AI as its own, data governance for AI. I'm trying I'm asking you to be the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
For the second question.
I do actually have thoughts on both. So for the first one, my perspective has always been that I think we had mentioned it in pre-conversations, but it's the first letter in IT. It's information. So data is just information, and it becomes information once it's been contextualized, and then it becomes insights, right? So I see analytics is really a business strategy function. We're part of the business. We're helping support business decisions. We just happen to have the IT capabilities to fulfill those objectives. That said, there is no perfect answer, in my opinion, and it's very dependent on which direction that you need to go at any given time. So being flexible, because the reality is you have to pull the IT side together with the business. You're the glue in the middle. Mm-hmm. That's how it is. So I do think it's more business strategy adjacent, but I think you're always going to be pulling those two things together and making them work together.
Definitely.
And then playing devil's advocate, I do strongly believe that AI is, because it already is a function of data science and therefore data and analytics, especially machine learning, traditional AI, NLP, generative AI is a separate animal or beast, if you will, that's really introduced a lot of popularity and hype into AI and put a huge spotlight on it, now more so than ever. But I do believe it is an extension. You can have an extended data governance approach and policy to keep those things centralized. But playing devil's advocate on that and why it should be separate, the one thing I would look at specifically for generative AI is, what if you consider it to be a application just like anything else? Outlook, Teams, Planner, it's just another application. Copilot literally is just another application in the Microsoft ecosystem. If it is just a separate application that is a work structure breakdown, hey, I have tasks, I have jobs, and I want this thing to do those tasks and jobs, and I use it like I use Excel. It's just another tool in my tool belt. Maybe it does just become part of the overall IT enterprise architecture component and not a pure analytics and insights-driven component. Even though it is a researcher tool, it is a way to leverage data. Maybe it is just another application that goes into the Office 365 spectrum, and it needs to be governed from the pure IT perspective. So playing devil's advocate, it could go that way for a specific subject of it. If you talk broadly in the AI spectrum and you're a data scientist, you can't really govern machine learning separately from AI because they're the same thing. It's a spectrum. So
I love it. I think you play a very good devil's advocate.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, that brings us to a closure here. Eugene, thank you so much for being with us. I have enjoyed this conversation and learned a lot of things from your journey. Thank you once again.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. For those of you that have been listening, thank you for listening this time. And until next time, I'll see you later.